Hi, my name is Tshireletso Nqapai, and I will be reflecting on some of the changes that have influenced or impacted my life over the past almost 37 years for organizational behavior. I have documented about 5 or 6 changes that I think really stand out in my life's journey and have molded me into the person that I am. The first one was back in the year 1999 when I was transitioning from Standard 5 to Standard 6, now known as grade 7 to grade 8. And I remember we were staying in Mafikeng as a family and being under the authority of my parents. I didn't really have a choice in terms of the school that they took me to, but I found it so pleasurable that they included me in the process. They spoke to me, they transitioned along with me, they took me along to go and see the premises, go and see the school, and that sort of created an expectation in me, and I looked forward to the move, even though I was leaving some friends behind. I was leaving my family behind. And of course, in boarding school, the agreement is that you come back at the end of each term. But I found it to be a good experience because my parents included me in the process and bought the things together with me, went to the shops together. So it was quite an inclusive event, and I think that's why I ended up enjoying it. Of course, boarding school came with a lot of unexpected things, new people, new environment, new rules that one needed to adhere to, and it was quite an adjustment. But what made it easy was, or more manageable, was the going back and forth towards the boarding school and home, and being in constant contact with my parents until such time that I settled in. And it ended up being a pleasure to be there. And then not so long after that, about a year and a half later, my parents told me that we're moving to a different town, a different city. So as a family, we moved to Rustenburg, because my mom had been transferred with her work. That was quite an experience, because it meant that I needed to leave boarding school in the middle of the year, start a new school, and it felt like a rushed experience. It felt like the decision was rushed. Of course, on their end, it was not rushed. My mom had wanted to move to a different town, even though she would want to be in the same company. But this, compared to the first experience, was very unexpected. It felt like one had to be flexible very quickly, and one had to adjust very quickly. I didn't have a lot of time to say goodbye to my friends. I didn't have a lot of time to finish off the loose ends. But as a child that lives under the authority of your parents, you have to sort of move along quickly, which I did. I struggled a bit in the new school, only because it was a different city, the environment was different, the people were different, the expectations were different. But it was good to be back with my family, so with my parents. But it was very difficult to move from a place that I called home and the comfort zone into the new. That was a bit of a rough change to adjust to. The third change was studying. So I decided, all on my own, to study after matric. I decided to go to Port Elizabeth for my university studies. That was so far from home. It was 12 to 13 hours, and via bus. I used to travel with a bus. So that was a decision that was self-imposed. And of course, the university was a pleasurable place to be and to study. But the change in environment, the change in temperature, the change in weather, the change in everything, the pace of life in Port Elizabeth was so much slower than what I was used to in Northwest, and I spent some time in Gauteng as well. And this change specifically taught me independence like no other. I only went home every 6 months. I traveled with the bus on my own. Sometimes I travel with the on plane or by flight. But it was big. It was a big change, and it was a 4 year period, for almost 5 year period, where I had to go back and forth, where I was learning, of course. Doing an undergrad, I was learning new material, I was learning a new life, I was learning a new pace of life. And I think when I reflect back, it was a time in my life where there was a huge growth spurt. I had to learn how to be a young adult very quickly. I had to learn how to use money. I had to learn how to live with different types of people. I had to learn how to create my own space, because for the first time, I was creating my own space, the space that I lived in by myself. Even though I was in res, I had a little section that was dedicated to me. And I think when I think about all of these, then I transitioned into a time where I got married. I moved back to Gauteng. I got married. I had children. And those two huge changes were easier to sort of adjust to, because they were self-imposed, in the positive sense of the word, but also because I had a lot of control. I had all the information that I needed. I did all the research. I chose my partner. I involved, of course, friends and family in sort of sussing him out, but I am the one that made the decisions. And the transition from singlehood to marriage was not that difficult, because we spent a lot of time together. We spoke a lot. There was a lot of communication. There was a lot of clarifying. There was some counseling, and everything else in between. And even when we had our two children, it was not difficult, because I was exposed to so much information. And I think even in organizations, decisions that are informed, when we give our employees enough time to process the change, to process what's coming, to process what that means for them, to process where they'll fit in the organization with the new change. I think that's what organizations definitely need to put in place in times of change, to ensure that everybody knows where they fit in the whole, and also just reassuring everybody that yes, the change is something new, but it definitely won't change you. It might change the role that you play, but it shouldn't affect you in a terrible way. But yeah, as an organization, I definitely implement that. Thank you.